DR Congo sends 3 Chinese nationals to jail, a major win in the battle against illegal mining. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we explore the issues that shape Africa's future. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. In today's video, we dive into a critical development in the Democratic Republic of Congo. 3 Chinese nationals have been sentenced to prison in a high-profile illegal mining case. What does this mean for the future of mining in Africa? Stay tuned as we break it down, explore the wider context, and look at what this could mean for African leaders moving forward. In a significant legal development, a court in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has sentenced 3 Chinese nationals to 7 years in prison for illegal mining activities. The defendants were arrested on January 4, 2025, in possession of gold bars and approximately 240 million CFA francs in undeclared cash. They were convicted on charges including money laundering and illegal possession of mineral substances, though they were acquitted of fraud and illegal mineral extraction due to insufficient evidence. In addition to their prison sentences, the court imposed a fine of 360 million CFA francs and a lifetime ban from the DRC following the completion of their prison terms. Critical analysis. This verdict underscores the DRC's intensified efforts to combat illegal mining, particularly involving foreign nationals. The substantial fines and lifetime ban reflect the severity with which the Congolese legal system is addressing illicit mining activities. However, the acquittal on charges of fraud and illegal mineral extraction highlights the complexities in prosecuting such cases where evidence may be limited or difficult to obtain. The defense's intention to appeal the ruling, citing the lack of criminal intent, raises questions about the standards of proof required in such cases. This situation may prompt a re-evaluation of legal frameworks to ensure they effectively deter illegal mining while safeguarding the rights of the accused. Africa-wide comparison. Illegal mining is a pervasive issue across Africa, with various countries grappling with its environmental, economic, and social impacts. In South Africa, for instance, illegal mining activities, often referred to as zama-zamas, have led to severe environmental degradation and loss of life. Recent incidents, such as the deaths of at least 60 illegal miners at the Stilfontein gold mine, highlight the dangers associated with unregulated mining operations. Similarly, in Ghana, illegal small-scale gold mining, known as galamsey, has resulted in widespread deforestation and water pollution. The government's efforts to curb these activities have faced challenges due to the economic dependence of many communities on mining and the involvement of foreign nationals in the sector. These examples illustrate that while the DRC's legal actions against illegal mining are significant, they are part of a broader continental struggle to balance economic development, environmental protection, and the regulation of foreign involvement in the mining sector. Forward-looking approach. To effectively address illegal mining, African nations, including the DRC, may consider the following strategies. 1. Strengthening legal frameworks, implementing and enforcing robust mining laws that clearly define legal and illegal mining activities with stringent penalties for violations. 2. Enhancing transparency, establishing transparent systems for mining operations to ensure accountability and reduce opportunities for illicit activities. 3. Community engagement, involving local communities in the development and enforcement of mining regulations to foster ownership and compliance. 4. International cooperation, collaborating with international partners to monitor and control the flow of illicit minerals, including the use of technology to trace mineral origins. 5. Economic diversification, developing alternative livelihoods for communities dependent on illegal mining to reduce economic incentives for such activities. Latest developments. In a related development, Interpol conducted a major operation targeting illegal gold mining in West Africa, resulting in 200 arrests and the seizure of harmful chemicals, explosives, and drugs. This operation, spanning Burkina Faso, Gambia, Guinea, and Senegal, underscores the extensive networks involved in illegal mining and the environmental and health risks associated with such practices. These developments highlight the ongoing challenges and the need for comprehensive strategies to combat illegal mining across the African continent. International scrutiny and growing concerns. The growing involvement of foreign nationals, particularly Chinese nationals, in Africa's artisanal mining sector has increasingly become a focal point for international scrutiny. The DRC case involving 3 Chinese citizens represents just one example of a wider trend, as countries across the continent are starting to closely monitor foreign investment and operations in their natural resource sectors. Foreign actors often bring capital, machinery, and expertise to the mining sector, but their involvement in illegal activities, ranging from illicit mineral extraction to money laundering, has led to rising tensions between African nations and their external partners. Critics argue that foreign involvement in Africa's mining industries has been a significant factor in the depletion of the continent's natural resources, and that much of the wealth generated from these resources fails to reach local communities or national treasuries. In the DRC, as in many other African nations, foreign investments are often not subject to strict oversight, which contributes to corruption and exploitation. For example, companies linked to foreign nationals have been accused of bypassing local laws regarding environmental protection and labor rights, all while extracting valuable minerals such as gold, cobalt, and diamonds. As the DRC government intensifies its crackdown on illegal mining, it is facing both domestic and international pressures to balance economic interests with the need to enforce strict mining regulations. The role of China in Africa's mining industry. China's role in Africa's mining sector is particularly significant, given the country's burgeoning appetite for raw materials to fuel its growing economy. Chinese investments in Africa's mining industry have soared in recent decades, and Chinese companies often operate in remote areas where artisanal mining is prevalent. While many of these companies contribute to economic development by providing jobs and infrastructure, they have also been associated with environmental degradation, unsafe working conditions, and the perpetuation of illegal mining operations. In response to these concerns, Chinese authorities have increasingly come under pressure to ensure that Chinese companies and nationals operating in Africa adhere to both international and local regulations. This was evident in the case of the 3 Chinese nationals sentenced in the DRC, where the involvement of Chinese citizens in illegal mining has sparked heated debates about responsibility and accountability. The DRC's legal system, through its actions, sent a clear message to other foreign nationals that they will not be immune to prosecution if they flout local laws, particularly when it comes to natural resource extraction. This incident is part of a larger trend across Africa, where governments are strengthening their regulatory frameworks to better manage foreign investments in their resource-rich sectors. In countries like Ghana, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, there has been growing concern over the presence of foreign nationals in artisanal and small-scale mining operations, particularly as these activities often bypass formal taxation systems and contribute to significant environmental damage. International efforts to regulate the global supply chain. The international community has made several attempts to regulate and monitor the supply chains of minerals sourced from conflict zones in countries with weak governance structures. The DRC, a major producer of cobalt and gold, is at the heart of these efforts. Organizations such as the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, and the OECD have sought to establish frameworks to ensure that mineral resources are sourced ethically and transparently. In the wake of incidents like the illegal mining case in the DRC, the need for these frameworks has become more pressing. The involvement of foreign nationals in illegal mining operations not only deprives African governments of tax revenue, but also undermines international efforts to curb the financing of armed groups through resource extraction. In 2024, the OECD launched the OECD Due Diligence Guidance for Responsible Supply Chains of Minerals from conflict-affected and high-risk areas. This initiative aims to establish transparent practices in mineral sourcing with a focus on reducing the flow of conflict minerals. However, the success of these frameworks depends on the willingness of African governments to enforce regulations and hold both foreign and domestic players accountable. The economic consequences of illegal mining. While the environmental and legal challenges of illegal mining are well documented, the economic consequences are equally profound. In countries like the DRC, where mining is a significant contributor to GDP, the illegal extraction of minerals not only deprives the government of much-needed tax revenue, but also stunts economic growth. The informal mining sector often operates outside formal regulations, meaning that it fails to contribute to the development of national economies in a sustainable way. Illegal mining activities also exacerbate inequality. Foreign nationals involved in these operations often take the lion's share of profits, leaving local communities with little to show for the natural wealth extracted from their lands. In many cases, local populations are forced into dangerous and exploitative working conditions with no safety nets or protections. As African countries grapple with the economic ramifications of illegal mining, they are also facing the daunting task of finding ways to reform the sector without alienating foreign investors. Balancing the need for economic growth with the desire for social and environmental justice will be one of the key challenges for policymakers in the coming years. The way forward, a call for comprehensive reform. Given the scale of the problem, addressing the issue of illegal mining in Africa requires a multifaceted approach. Governments must focus on strengthening the legal and regulatory frameworks governing the mining industry. This includes not only ensuring that mining companies, both local and foreign, comply with the law, but also working to formalize the artisanal mining sector, which represents a significant portion of Africa's mining output. Moreover, regional cooperation between African nations could prove invaluable in addressing illegal mining. By sharing information, coordinating enforcement efforts, and pooling resources, African countries can create a united front against the exploitation of their natural resources. International actors, including the United Nations, the World Bank, and the African Union, should also step up their efforts to support African governments in tackling illegal mining. This could include providing technical assistance, funding for law enforcement, and facilitating dialogues between African governments and foreign investors. It is crucial to recognize that the artisanal mining sector, while problematic in many ways, is also an important source of livelihood for millions of Africans. Therefore, any strategy to combat illegal mining must also address the economic realities faced by local miners. Developing alternative livelihoods, promoting responsible mining practices, and improving working conditions in the formal sector are key steps toward ensuring that Africa's resources benefit its people and not just foreign actors. Leveraging technology for monitoring and transparency. One of the most promising approaches to curbing illegal mining in Africa lies in the application of technology. In recent years, technological advancements have opened new avenues for improving transparency and monitoring activities within the mining sector. The introduction of blockchain technology, for example, has the potential to revolutionize how minerals are traced from extraction to export. By providing an immutable record of mineral transactions, blockchain could reduce the opportunities for fraud and corruption that have plagued the sector for decades. Additionally, satellite technology and drones have become increasingly useful in monitoring mining activities. Satellite imagery can help governments and regulatory bodies detect illegal mining sites, assess environmental damage, and ensure compliance with environmental regulations. Drones, on the other hand, can be used to conduct aerial surveys of remote mining areas, helping authorities to monitor illegal activity without having to rely on traditional ground-based inspections, which are often too slow and resource-intensive. These technologies are already being tested in countries like the DRC and Ghana, where they are helping authorities track the movement of minerals and detect illegal mining activities. As these technologies become more widespread and cost-effective, they will be invaluable tools in the fight against illicit mining, providing governments with real-time data to inform their decisions. The role of civil society and local communities. While governments and foreign investors have a significant role to play in addressing illegal mining, local communities and civil society organizations must also be part of the solution. In many cases, local miners engage in illegal activities because they lack access to legal mining opportunities or face severe economic hardship. As such, Any comprehensive strategy to address illegal mining must include community-based solutions that promote sustainable livelihoods and provide alternatives to illicit mining. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and local civil society groups can play a crucial role in raising awareness about the environmental and social consequences of illegal mining. These organizations can also advocate for better policies and practices that protect local communities and the environment while still allowing for economic development in the mining sector. Furthermore, local communities themselves can be empowered to participate in the regulation of mining activities. By establishing community-based monitoring programs and involving local people in decision-making processes, governments can create a more inclusive and effective system of regulation. This approach has already been successful in countries like Tanzania, where community participation in environmental monitoring has led to better compliance with mining regulations and a reduction in illegal mining activities. International partnerships for resource management. The issue of illegal mining in Africa is not confined to the continent. The global demand for minerals, particularly gold, cobalt, and other precious metals, fuels the illicit trade in African resources. International buyers, often based in China, the Middle East, and Europe, have a critical role to play in this complex web of exploitation. To address illegal mining, there must be greater international collaboration between African governments, foreign investors, and international buyers. One promising development in this regard is the growing push for responsible sourcing initiatives. Multinational corporations, particularly those in the electronics and automotive sectors, are increasingly under pressure from consumers and advocacy groups to ensure that the minerals they source are ethically and sustainably mined. The adoption of such initiatives, combined with greater transparency in the supply chain, could help reduce the demand for conflict minerals and the exploitation of Africa's resources. In 2024, the European Union began enforcing new regulations requiring companies to demonstrate that their supply chains are free from conflict minerals. This development has had ripple effects in Africa, encouraging governments and companies to ensure that the minerals being exported are not linked to illegal activities. Similar efforts are underway in the United States, where the Dodd-Frank Act mandates that companies disclose the source of their minerals to ensure they are not financing armed conflict. However, for these initiatives to succeed, they must be supported by strong enforcement mechanisms. While policies in the EU and the US are steps in the right direction, the lack of coordinated enforcement in many African countries remains a significant barrier to success. African governments must collaborate not only with international buyers, but also with international law enforcement agencies to ensure that illicit mineral trade is effectively disrupted. Challenges to reforming the mining sector. Despite the potential for progress, several obstacles remain in the way of reforming Africa's mining sector. One of the biggest challenges is the sheer scale of the problem. Illegal mining is deeply entrenched in many countries, with vast informal networks that often operate outside government control. In regions where the state has limited presence, such as parts of the DRC and South Sudan, regulating mining activities can be incredibly difficult. Corruption is another significant barrier to reform. In many African countries, illegal mining activities are facilitated by corrupt officials who either turn a blind eye to violations or actively participate in the exploitation of resources. The problem is exacerbated by the lack of sufficient infrastructure and resources to enforce mining laws and regulations. Without the capacity to monitor and prosecute illegal mining, many governments struggle to tackle the issue effectively. Additionally, the economic incentives driving illegal mining cannot be underestimated. For many local miners, artisanal mining represents their only means of livelihood, and they may be reluctant to abandon it in favor of formal, regulated mining operations. The informal nature of the industry means that miners are often not subject to the same taxes, fees, and regulations as formal mining companies, making illegal mining financially attractive. To overcome these challenges, African governments must not only strengthen their legal and regulatory frameworks, but also invest in building the capacity of their mining sectors to manage resources more effectively. This includes improving the skills of local miners, providing access to financing for formal mining operations, and ensuring that mining revenues are fairly distributed and invested in local development. The sentencing of 3 Chinese nationals in the Democratic Republic of Congo marks a significant moment in the fight against illegal mining in Africa, but it is only one piece of the larger puzzle. The challenge of addressing illegal mining in Africa is complex and multifaceted, involving legal, economic, environmental, and social dimensions. As African countries work to strengthen their mining sectors and combat illegal activities, they will need to adopt a comprehensive approach that includes stricter regulations, international cooperation, technological innovation, and community-based solutions. The DRC's case serves as a wake-up call for all stakeholders involved in Africa's mining sector, from foreign investors to local communities, highlighting the need for responsible and sustainable mining practices. Only through collaboration, both within Africa and globally, can the continent's vast mineral wealth be harnessed to drive development, reduce poverty, and protect the environment. The role of financial institutions and multinational corporations. As efforts to combat illegal mining intensify across Africa, financial institutions and multinational corporations must also play a critical role. Banks and investment firms that fund mining operations must ensure that their investments adhere to ethical standards and do not inadvertently support illegal activities. Due diligence processes should be rigorously applied to trace the origin of funds and ensure they are not linked to illicit mining operations. In many instances, illegal mining is funded by loans from financial institutions that lack adequate checks to assess the legitimacy of mining projects. This lack of oversight can lead to unregulated, illegal mining activities proliferating under the guise of legitimate operations. Financial institutions have an opportunity to prevent these activities by ensuring transparency and accountability in the mining projects they finance. Multinational corporations, especially those in the electronics, automotive, and construction sectors, also bear significant responsibility. Many of these industries rely heavily on minerals sourced from Africa, including gold, cobalt, and tantalum. While corporate social responsibility (CSR) initiatives have gained traction in recent years, they need to be strengthened to ensure compliance with responsible sourcing standards. Corporations must implement stringent monitoring and reporting systems to verify that their supply chains are free from illegal or exploitative practices. This can be achieved through better cooperation with African governments, local NGOs, and other stakeholders to ensure that the minerals they source are ethically mined and do not contribute to corruption or environmental damage. The push for more responsible mining has already led to the establishment of certifications like the Responsible Sourcing Blockchain Network, RSBN, and the International Council on Mining and Metals, ICMM, which work to ensure ethical standards are met across mining operations globally. These certifications provide an essential framework for companies and investors to operate transparently and mitigate the risks of supporting illegal activities. Regional cooperation and integration. One of the key ways to combat illegal mining is through greater regional cooperation. Many African countries share borders that overlap with areas rich in natural resources, meaning illegal mining activities are not confined to one nation. Criminal networks often operate across borders, making it more difficult for individual countries to address the issue independently. By working together, countries can create stronger enforcement mechanisms and share vital information to dismantle illegal mining operations. The African Union, AU, and regional economic communities, such as the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the East African Community, EAC, could play pivotal roles in coordinating efforts across borders. Regional cooperation could include joint military and police operations, as well as cross-border monitoring of mining activities. Furthermore, the creation of regional frameworks to ensure the fair and responsible use of resources could encourage countries to adopt similar mining laws and regulations, thus reducing the likelihood of illegal mining activities. Such cooperation could also lead to the harmonization of mining practices and regulations, creating a more stable and predictable environment for foreign investors and ensuring that resource wealth is distributed equitably across nations. Furthermore, shared expertise and resources could help boost the capacity of smaller, resource-constrained countries to enforce mining laws effectively. The African Mining Vision, AMV, which was adopted by the African Union in 2009, is one such framework that advocates for transparent, equitable, and sustainable mining practices across the continent. While the AMV has been instrumental in promoting better governance in the mining sector, its full implementation will require political will, financial resources, and strong regional partnerships. The environmental impact of illegal mining. The environmental consequences of illegal mining are perhaps the most immediate and visible. Unregulated mining operations often fail to follow environmental protection laws, resulting in significant damage to ecosystems. In the DRC, illegal gold mining in the eastern regions has led to deforestation, the destruction of wildlife habitats, and the contamination of waterways with mercury and cyanide, substances frequently used in the extraction of gold. These environmental impacts not only harm biodiversity, but also endanger local communities who rely on clean water and fertile land for farming. The environmental costs of illegal mining are not confined to the DRC. Across the continent, illegal mining activities have been linked to severe soil erosion, pollution of rivers and lakes, and the destruction of forests. The use of toxic chemicals in mining processes also poses serious health risks to local populations. In Ghana, for example, illegal gold mining has led to the contamination of water sources, affecting thousands of people who rely on these water bodies for drinking and irrigation. In response to these environmental challenges, governments and environmental organizations have called for the stricter enforcement of environmental laws and the establishment of more sustainable mining practices. Solutions like the promotion of eco-friendly mining technologies, the restoration of damaged ecosystems, and the enforcement of stricter mining permits can go a long way in mitigating the environmental harm caused by illegal mining. Additionally, companies operating in Africa must take greater responsibility for the environmental impact of their operations. Multinational companies should invest in cleaner technologies and work with local communities to minimize the environmental footprint of their mining activities. This includes adopting green technologies such as solar-powered mining equipment, responsible waste management practices, and sustainable mining techniques that reduce water and chemical consumption. Addressing the root causes of illegal mining. While enforcement is crucial, tackling the root causes of illegal mining is equally important. Poverty and lack of economic opportunities are two of the main drivers behind illegal mining in Africa. For many local miners, the economic benefits of participating in informal mining operations outweigh the risks associated with illegal practices. Addressing this root cause requires a multi-pronged approach that focuses on creating alternative livelihoods, improving education, and fostering economic development in mining regions. Governments can encourage the formalization of artisanal mining by providing training, financial support, and technical assistance to local miners. This would allow them to transition from illegal to legal operations, where they can still generate income while adhering to environmental and safety regulations. Additionally, providing access to affordable equipment, credit, and mining licenses could incentivize miners to operate within the legal framework. Furthermore, governments and international donors should invest in programs that provide economic opportunities outside of mining. By developing sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing, governments can help create alternative sources of income for communities that are heavily dependent on mining. The role of education and public awareness education plays a crucial role in shaping public perceptions about illegal mining and its consequences. Raising awareness among local communities about the negative impact of illegal mining on the environment, public health, and the economy can lead to greater public support for reform efforts. Educational programs should focus on the long-term benefits of legal mining operations, including better working conditions, access to social benefits, and a more stable income. Public awareness campaigns can also encourage miners to adopt safer and more sustainable mining techniques. Additionally, communities should be educated about the importance of environmental preservation and the potential for alternative livelihoods. Educational initiatives could be particularly effective if they are tailored to the specific needs and context of different mining regions. The illegal mining sector in Africa presents a complex challenge that requires coordinated efforts from governments, foreign investors, financial institutions, local communities, and international organizations. While legal actions such as the recent case in the DRC are important in sending a strong message, they must be accompanied by comprehensive strategies that address the underlying causes of illegal mining, including poverty, lack of economic opportunities, and weak governance structures. Through stronger legal frameworks, technological innovations, regional cooperation, and the promotion of sustainable mining practices, Africa can pave the way for a mining industry that benefits all stakeholders: government, local communities, foreign investors, and the environment. The recent case in the DRC serves as a timely reminder of the urgent need for reform and the challenges that remain in the fight against illegal mining across the continent. The ongoing efforts to address this issue will play a crucial role in determining whether Africa can harness its vast mineral wealth for sustainable economic growth and development. The importance of political will and governance. At the heart of any effort to curb illegal mining in Africa lies the issue of governance. Effective governance is essential to creating and enforcing the legal and regulatory frameworks necessary to regulate the mining sector. However, corruption remains a significant barrier to progress, with powerful individuals often benefiting from illegal mining activities, either through bribes or direct involvement in these operations. The lack of political will to address illegal mining is often compounded by the desire to maintain access to illicitly obtained resources. This reality is particularly evident in countries like the DRC, where mineral wealth is vast, but the political environment has historically been characterized by weak institutions and entrenched corruption. While recent efforts to prosecute illegal mining activities in the DRC indicate a shift toward stronger governance, much work remains to be done to ensure that these efforts translate into lasting change. To effectively tackle illegal mining, African governments must strengthen their political commitment to transparency and accountability. This could be achieved through a combination of judicial reforms, the strengthening of anti-corruption agencies, and the establishment of independent monitoring bodies that can track government involvement in the mining sector. Additionally, there needs to be political support for laws that protect the environment, workers' rights, and local communities from the negative impacts of mining. International donors and organizations have a role to play in supporting these reforms, but it is ultimately up to African leaders to demonstrate the political will to take on the entrenched interests that perpetuate illegal mining activities. In countries like Ghana, South Africa, and the DRC, political leaders who are committed to mining sector reform can set a strong example for the rest of the continent. Expanding access to legal mining operations. One of the most effective ways to combat illegal mining is by expanding access to legal mining opportunities. For many local miners, illegal operations are seen as the only viable option due to a lack of access to formal mining licenses, capital, and technology. By opening legal mining opportunities and making it easier for artisanal miners to enter the formal economy, governments can significantly reduce the appeal of illegal mining. Countries like Tanzania have made strides in formalizing the artisanal mining sector by offering training, financial support, and the issuance of mining licenses to local miners. However, these programs often face challenges related to accessibility and awareness. Many artisanal miners are unaware of the legal avenues available to them, and even when they are, they often face bureaucratic hurdles and high costs associated with acquiring licenses and permits. To address these challenges, governments could simplify the process for obtaining mining licenses and make it more affordable for local miners to enter the formal sector. Providing easier access to financial services, such as low-interest loans, would also help artisanal miners invest in equipment and adopt safer, more efficient mining techniques. Moreover, partnerships between governments, international development agencies, and the private sector could facilitate the establishment of microfinancing schemes specifically aimed at small-scale miners, creating alternative livelihoods for mining communities. As previously mentioned, illegal mining is often driven by economic necessity, particularly in rural areas where employment opportunities are limited. In order to effectively tackle illegal mining, African governments and development agencies must focus on providing alternative livelihoods for communities that are heavily dependent on mining. One of the most effective ways to create alternative livelihoods is through diversification of local economies. This can be achieved by investing in sectors like agriculture, renewable energy, tourism, and manufacturing. For example, local agricultural programs can be designed to help miners transition to farming, while vocational training programs can provide miners with the skills needed to enter new industries. At the same time, governments must improve the infrastructure in mining communities, including access to education, healthcare, and reliable transportation. This would not only improve the quality of life for people living in these areas, but also create more economic opportunities outside of mining. Developing the renewable energy sector is another promising avenue for creating jobs in mining regions. Many mining areas are energy poor and could benefit from solar, wind, or hydroelectric power projects. These types of investments would not only provide sustainable energy to communities, but also create jobs and reduce the reliance on fossil fuels, which are often linked to environmental degradation. Additionally, fostering the growth of small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, in mining areas could help create more diverse economies. This could include support for local artisans, traders, and businesses that provide services to the mining sector. By encouraging entrepreneurship and small-scale business development, governments can help mining communities transition from informal, illicit economies to more formal, sustainable livelihoods. Education and capacity building education is another critical component in the effort to combat illegal mining. Educating local communities about the dangers of illegal mining, both to human health and the environment, can create more awareness and reduce participation in these activities. For instance, health campaigns about the risks of mercury poisoning and the long-term environmental damage caused by illegal mining could motivate individuals to seek alternative sources of income. In addition to raising awareness, education also plays a key role in providing local communities with the skills needed to participate in the legal economy. Through vocational training programs and educational initiatives, individuals can gain the necessary skills to take on formal employment or become entrepreneurs in non-mining sectors. Schools and universities should also introduce mining education programs that focus on sustainable practices and the safe operation of mining equipment. This could help to develop a new generation of miners who are committed to responsible practices and who understand the importance of adhering to environmental regulations. The role of international donors and NGOs. International donors, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and development agencies have an important role to play in tackling the illegal mining crisis in Africa. These organizations can provide technical expertise, funding, and policy support to help governments develop and implement mining sector reforms. NGOs are also well positioned to raise awareness about the social and environmental impacts of illegal mining and advocate for better policies and practices. NGOs can work directly with local communities to offer alternatives to illegal mining. They can run educational programs, offer microloans for small businesses, and provide vocational training for miners. By partnering with local governments, international donors, and businesses, NGOs can help create comprehensive, community-driven solutions to illegal mining that address both the immediate and long-term needs of affected populations. Looking ahead, a comprehensive approach to sustainable mining. The future of Africa's mining sector hinges on the ability to balance economic development with environmental protection and social responsibility. As the continent continues to grapple with the challenges posed by illegal mining, it is clear that a multidimensional approach is needed to achieve lasting reform. While enforcement and legal action, such as the recent case in the DRC, are necessary, they must be accompanied by efforts to formalize the artisanal mining sector, create alternative livelihoods, invest in education and capacity building, and enhance international cooperation. Africa's rich mineral resources hold immense potential for sustainable development. If managed effectively, they can serve as a catalyst for economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction. However, realizing this potential will require concerted efforts from all stakeholders, governments, businesses, local communities, NGOs, and international partners to address the root causes of illegal mining and build a sustainable mining sector for the future. As the DRC case illustrates, Africa's mining sector is at a critical juncture. The actions taken today will shape the future of the continent's mining industry, determining whether it can fulfill its potential while safeguarding the interests of the people and the environment. The path forward will require tough decisions, innovative solutions, and a commitment to long-term reform. The role of private sector and corporate accountability. The private sector, particularly multinational mining companies, has a crucial responsibility to ensure that their operations contribute positively to the local communities and the environment while respecting national laws. With Africa being home to some of the richest mineral deposits globally, multinational companies that operate within the continent's mining industry hold a significant role in shaping the future of the sector. Many of these companies have established corporate social responsibility (CSR) programs that aim to support local communities, improve working conditions, and contribute to environmental sustainability. However, these programs often fall short in addressing the more systemic issues of illegal mining, corruption, and environmental degradation. Private companies should strive to go beyond the standard CSR practices and embed sustainability into every aspect of their operations. This could include ensuring that all supply chains are fully transparent, providing detailed reports on the environmental impact of their activities, and making a stronger commitment to local community development. Moreover, companies should establish partnerships with governments and local organizations to implement responsible sourcing practices, especially in regions where illegal mining thrives. By supporting formalization initiatives and ensuring compliance with both local laws and international standards, companies can reduce the incentives for illegal mining and improve conditions for artisanal miners. In addition, mining companies should prioritize safety and health standards, ensuring that their operations do not lead to significant harm to workers or communities. Investing in health and safety programs for both their workers and surrounding populations, particularly in areas with artisanal mining activities, can help prevent fatal accidents, health risks from toxic substances, and environmental disasters. It is also imperative that companies provide safe alternatives for artisanal miners, helping them transition into the formal sector while ensuring that they have access to adequate training, technology, and financial support. Regional and continental policy coordination. One of the significant challenges in addressing illegal mining across Africa is the lack of coordination between countries that share mining resources or that are located near each other's mineral-rich borders. Mining activities often extend beyond national borders, with minerals illegally extracted in one country being transported to neighboring states for smuggling, illegal trade, or processing. In many cases, foreign nationals engaged in illegal mining operations across national borders to exploit weaker regulations in neighboring countries. To address this, African countries need to develop and implement continental policies that promote cooperation and information sharing between governments, regulators, and law enforcement agencies. The African Union, AU, and regional organizations such as the Southern African Development Community, SADC, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the East African Community, EAC, must play a more active role in facilitating collaboration on mining issues. This collaboration could take the form of joint operations, shared intelligence on illicit mining activities, and collective policy development to create a unified approach to managing Africa's natural resources. In addition, the creation of a continental body or a special task force dedicated to tackling illegal mining could further improve coordination. This entity could assist in strengthening regional enforcement efforts and provide technical and financial support to national governments to build capacity within their mining sectors. The establishment of such bodies would allow African nations to address cross-border illicit mining issues more effectively and ensure that all stakeholders, including neighboring countries, are held accountable for their role in facilitating or enabling illegal mining practices. The human cost of illegal mining. While the economic, environmental, and legal challenges of illegal mining are often highlighted, it is essential to consider the profound human cost involved. Across Africa, the pursuit of minerals often takes a significant toll on the individuals involved in illegal mining activities. In many cases, these miners, often from impoverished communities, are subjected to unsafe working conditions, exploitation, and human rights violations. Children and women in particular are disproportionately affected, with many being forced into dangerous labor in mines with little regard for their safety or well-being. Illegal miners often work in hazardous conditions that expose them to life-threatening risks. Miners, who are often untrained and lack access to safety equipment, face constant dangers from cave-ins, flooding, and exposure to harmful chemicals like mercury and cyanide. The long-term health consequences of illegal mining are equally dire. In addition to the physical dangers associated with working in mines, illegal miners are often exposed to toxic substances that cause serious health issues, including respiratory diseases, skin problems, and mercury poisoning. The absence of safety standards and oversight in illegal mining operations leaves miners vulnerable to exploitation by unscrupulous individuals who prioritize profits over the health and safety of their workers. Women and children are often subjected to the worst abuses in illegal mining operations. Children are sometimes forced to work in mines instead of going to school, depriving them of their education and limiting their future opportunities. Women are frequently exploited in informal mining activities, enduring harsh working conditions and often receiving little or no compensation for their labor. They are also at risk of physical and sexual abuse from male miners or supervisors. As the illegal mining industry often operates in remote and unregulated environments, women and children have limited recourse to legal protections or health services. Environmental justice and remediation. Another critical aspect that often goes unnoticed in the illegal mining discussion is the environmental damage caused by unregulated mining operations. The depletion of natural resources, destruction of biodiversity, deforestation, and contamination of water bodies are just a few of the environmental consequences of illegal mining activities. In countries like the DRC, the environmental impact of illegal mining is particularly severe. Forests are being cleared to make way for mining activities, and rivers are being contaminated with mercury and other chemicals used in the extraction of minerals. The devastating effects of illegal mining on ecosystems have long-lasting consequences that hinder the region's overall sustainable development. Environmental remediation is essential to mitigate the damage caused by illegal mining, and it must be included as a priority in mining sector reforms. Governments, mining companies, and NGOs must collaborate to restore ecosystems affected by mining. This could include the rehabilitation of polluted rivers, reforestation projects, and cleaning up toxic waste from abandoned mining sites. In regions like the DRC and Ghana, where illegal mining activities are concentrated, restoring ecosystems would be a monumental but necessary task. In addition, the promotion of environmentally friendly mining technologies can help reduce the environmental footprint of the industry. Introducing cleaner, more sustainable mining methods and providing artisanal miners with access to environmentally safe alternatives can reduce the harm caused by mining activities. These methods should be widely promoted and accessible to those working in the informal mining sector, which is often the epicenter of environmental degradation. The role of international financial institutions. International financial institutions such as the World Bank, the African Development Bank, AFDB, and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, play a significant role in shaping the policies and practices of African governments, particularly in sectors like mining. These institutions can provide financial and technical assistance to support reforms in the mining sector, ensuring that resources are extracted responsibly and contribute to national development. Through funding, capacity building, and policy advice, international financial institutions can help governments develop robust mining governance frameworks that prioritize transparency, environmental sustainability, and the equitable distribution of mineral wealth. The World Bank's Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, is one such program that aims to bring greater transparency to the management of natural resources. By promoting transparency in the allocation and use of mining revenues, the EITI seeks to reduce corruption and ensure that mining activities benefit the broader population. While progress has been made in some African countries, such as Nigeria and Ghana, the challenge remains to scale up these efforts and ensure that they are consistently applied across the continent. As part of their engagement in Africa's mining sector, international financial institutions should focus on building capacity within local governments, enhancing regulatory frameworks, and fostering partnerships between the public and private sectors. They should also encourage the implementation of international standards, such as those set by the UN's guiding principles on business and human rights, to ensure that mining activities do not violate the rights of workers or communities. The fight against illegal mining in Africa is an ongoing challenge that requires coordinated efforts at the local, national, regional, and international levels. The DRC case, along with similar incidents across the continent, highlights the critical need for stronger legal frameworks, better governance, sustainable mining practices, and a commitment to social and environmental responsibility. Addressing illegal mining requires a holistic approach that not only focuses on enforcement, but also provides alternatives for miners, protects local communities, and ensures that the wealth generated from Africa's mineral resources is used for the benefit of all Africans. As the international community and African governments continue to grapple with these issues, the key to success lies in fostering a collaborative and multi-stakeholder approach. Only through concerted efforts to address the root causes of illegal mining, strengthen governance systems, and promote sustainable practices will Africa be able to harness its mineral wealth for long-term, equitable development. The role of local governments in regulating artisanal mining. While national and regional policies play a crucial role in regulating mining, local governments are often on the front lines of enforcement. These local authorities are responsible for monitoring mining activities, issuing permits, and ensuring that operations comply with environmental and safety standards. However, the capacity of local governments to effectively manage these tasks is often limited by a lack of resources, training, and infrastructure. Local governments in mining regions must be better equipped to handle the challenges posed by illegal mining. This includes providing training for local officials in environmental regulation, mining law enforcement, and conflict resolution. It is essential that local authorities have the tools they need to monitor mining activities effectively, including access to modern technologies such as drones, satellite imagery, and other remote sensing tools that can be used to track illegal mining sites. Additionally, local governments should be incentivized to actively participate in the formalization of artisanal mining. By creating local policies that encourage small-scale miners to register their operations, obtain permits, and comply with safety regulations, local governments can gradually reduce the scope of illegal mining in their areas. This would also allow for better tax collection and ensure that mining revenues contribute to the development of local communities. Local governments should also engage with mining communities to raise awareness about the importance of legal mining and the long-term benefits of formalization. Community engagement is key to ensuring that local miners understand the value of following regulations and are not solely driven by short-term financial incentives. By building trust between local authorities and mining communities, governments can foster cooperation in tackling illegal mining. Integrating environmental justice into policy frameworks. The environmental degradation caused by illegal mining in Africa cannot be ignored in discussions about mining reform. Artisanal miners, often working with rudimentary tools and techniques, do not have the capacity to implement sustainable mining practices, which leads to significant environmental damage. One of the biggest issues is the unregulated use of hazardous chemicals such as mercury, which is commonly used to extract gold. This not only harms the environment, but also poses severe health risks to miners and nearby communities. Governments must integrate environmental justice into mining policy frameworks to address the ecological impacts of mining. This can be done by creating laws that hold miners, whether legal or illegal, accountable for the environmental damage caused by their operations. For instance, policies could mandate that all mining operations, including artisanal ones, be required to meet basic environmental standards related to waste disposal, water management, and land rehabilitation. Furthermore, governments can collaborate with NGOs and international organizations to fund environmental restoration projects in regions severely affected by illegal mining. These projects could focus on the rehabilitation of deforested areas, cleaning up polluted rivers and lakes, and restoring biodiversity in ecosystems damaged by mining. By focusing on long-term environmental recovery, governments can ensure that their mining sectors are not only economically productive, but also sustainable in the years to come. Promoting regional economic integration through mining. While illegal mining continues to be a major challenge in many African countries, it is also essential to recognize the economic potential of Africa's mining sector. The continent is rich in natural resources, including gold, diamonds, cobalt, and rare earth minerals, all of which are in high demand globally. However, for African countries to fully benefit from their mineral wealth, it is necessary to integrate the mining sector into broader regional economic strategies. Regional economic integration is an important approach to ensuring that Africa's mining sector contributes to the continent's overall development. By establishing regional trade agreements, harmonizing mining laws and regulations, and building infrastructure that connects mining regions to national and international markets, African countries can maximize the value of their mineral resources. For instance, the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, presents an opportunity for African nations to promote intracontinental trade in mineral resources. This could help reduce reliance on foreign countries for the export of raw minerals and create value-added industries within Africa. Rather than exporting unprocessed minerals, countries could focus on developing local industries that refine and process minerals into finished products, which would create jobs and stimulate economic growth. By fostering regional cooperation in the mining sector, African nations can also work together to combat illegal mining. Regional agreements could involve joint monitoring and enforcement of mining laws, shared responsibilities for environmental protection, and the creation of cross-border legal frameworks to govern mineral trade. This type of regional collaboration would enable African countries to more effectively manage their resources and curb illegal mining activities that undermine economic growth. The importance of corporate transparency and the role of the private sector. Corporate transparency in the mining sector is a key element in ensuring that mineral resources are exploited in a responsible and ethical manner. Multinational mining companies operating in Africa must disclose their mining activities, including the sources of the minerals they extract, the environmental impact of their operations, and the contributions they make to local communities. This level of transparency is necessary to combat the opaque practices that often fuel illegal mining and undermine the governance of Africa's resource-rich nations. Private companies should be held accountable not only for the legal and ethical standards of their operations, but also for the environmental and social impact of their activities. This includes addressing issues such as the displacement of local communities, inadequate compensation, and the destruction of natural resources. Companies operating in Africa's mining sector must adopt the highest environmental, social, and governance (ESG) standards, ensuring that their operations contribute positively to the countries in which they operate. For example, multinational companies can participate in initiatives like the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EATI, which encourages greater openness about how revenues from natural resources are spent. Through such initiatives, mining companies can demonstrate their commitment to corporate social responsibility and ethical business practices. Moreover, the private sector can play a pivotal role in driving innovation in the mining industry, including the development of more sustainable and efficient mining technologies. By investing in research and development for cleaner mining practices, companies can help reduce the environmental impact of mining while improving the livelihoods of those working in the sector. Strengthening international partnerships for sustainable mining. The fight against illegal mining requires not only national and regional efforts, but also international cooperation. African countries, working together with international organizations, NGOs, and the private sector, can create a more effective framework for sustainable mining practices. By strengthening international partnerships, Africa can ensure that its mineral resources are used for the benefit of its people and contribute to long-term economic and social development. International partners, including the United Nations and development banks, can provide technical assistance, financial support, and expertise to help African countries strengthen their mining governance systems. This could involve providing funding for capacity-building initiatives, offering technical training to law enforcement officials, and supporting the implementation of responsible mining policies. In addition, multinational corporations and international buyers of African minerals must be part of the solution. As consumers of African minerals, these companies have a vested interest in ensuring that their supply chains are free from illegal mining and that they are sourcing minerals in a responsible and ethical manner. By adhering to international standards such as the OECD due diligence guidance for responsible supply chains, companies can help reduce the global demand for conflict minerals and illicitly mined resources. Addressing the challenges of illegal mining in Africa requires a multifaceted approach that involves governments, businesses, international organizations, and local communities. While legal frameworks, enforcement measures, and corporate accountability are essential to curbing illegal mining, they must be accompanied by efforts to create sustainable, formal mining opportunities and improve the livelihoods of communities dependent on mining. Through regional cooperation, responsible corporate practices, and a focus on long-term economic and environmental sustainability, Africa can harness its mineral wealth in a way that benefits all stakeholders. The role of international partners, financial institutions, and the private sector is critical to ensuring that Africa's mining industry is transparent, ethical, and contributes to the continent's development goals. As the African mining sector continues to evolve, it will be crucial to balance the economic potential of the industry with the need to protect the environment, uphold human rights, and create sustainable livelihoods for those involved in the sector. Only through comprehensive reforms and multi-stakeholder collaboration can Africa unlock the full potential of its natural resources while ensuring that mining activities are conducted responsibly, ethically, and with respect for local communities and ecosystems. The path forward for Africa's mining sector. As Africa looks to harness its vast mineral wealth, the future of its mining sector rests on its ability to address the complex challenges posed by illegal mining and unregulated practices. The road ahead will require bold leadership, effective governance, and collaboration between governments, the private sector, civil society, and international partners. Strengthening the regulatory frameworks, ensuring the formalization of artisanal mining, protecting the environment, and securing the well-being of workers are all essential components of a comprehensive strategy for sustainable development in Africa's mining sector. Moreover, the integration of advanced technologies, increased transparency, and regional cooperation will play pivotal roles in reducing illegal mining activities. These tools, when used effectively, can support governments in their efforts to monitor mining operations and ensure that resources are exploited responsibly. However, technology alone will not suffice. Political will and strong governance will remain crucial in ensuring that these systems are put into practice and maintained over the long term. It is also critical that the international community continues to engage with African nations to support mining reforms, provide technical assistance, and help build capacity. International buyers of African minerals and multinational mining companies must also hold themselves accountable to the highest ethical and environmental standards. The role of financial institutions, through responsible investments and transparent financing, cannot be overstated, as these entities have the power to either sustain or mitigate illegal mining practices through the projects they choose to fund. Advice to African leaders. African leaders have a responsibility to safeguard the continent's natural resources for the benefit of present and future generations. The wealth that lies beneath Africa's soil has the potential to propel economic development, create jobs, and improve living standards. However, leaders must recognize that this potential will only be realized through responsible resource management and the commitment to strong governance. To successfully manage Africa's mining resources, African leaders must prioritize the following. 1. Strengthen legal and regulatory frameworks. Ensuring that laws governing the mining sector are clear, enforceable, and capable of addressing both formal and informal mining activities is crucial. Leaders should work to eliminate loopholes, reduce corruption, and enhance the capacity of regulatory bodies to monitor mining operations effectively. 2. Invest in formalization of artisanal mining. Artisanal mining is an important source of livelihood for millions of people across the continent. Rather than criminalizing these miners, leaders should create pathways for their integration into the formal economy through legal frameworks, access to permits, financial support, and training on safer and more sustainable mining practices. 3. Focus on environmental sustainability. As Africa continues to develop its mining industry, it is essential that environmental sustainability becomes a central priority. African leaders must invest in green mining technologies, enforce environmental protection laws, and promote practices that minimize ecological damage. 4. Promote regional cooperation. Given the cross-border nature of illegal mining, it is essential that African nations collaborate to address the problem. Regional partnerships should be established to share best practices, coordinate enforcement efforts, and jointly combat the illegal mining networks that undermine national economies. 5. Empower local communities. The benefits of mining must reach the communities closest to the resources. Leaders should ensure that mining revenues are reinvested into local infrastructure, education, healthcare, and job creation. Additionally, they must protect workers' rights and ensure that the most vulnerable, including women and children, are not exploited in mining activities. 6. Engage with the private sector and international partners. The private sector, including multinational corporations, must be held accountable for their role in sustainable mining. Governments should enforce regulations that require companies to operate transparently and ethically. International partnerships should be strengthened to support African countries in implementing and monitoring mining reforms. Summary of key messages. The fight against illegal mining in Africa is a multifaceted challenge that requires coordinated efforts from governments, local communities, international organizations, and the private sector. While legal actions, such as the prosecution of illegal miners, are essential, they must be complemented by broader reforms in the mining sector. These reforms should include the formalization of artisanal mining, strengthening regulatory frameworks, and ensuring that mining practices are environmentally sustainable. African leaders must take a proactive role in strengthening governance, fostering regional cooperation, and ensuring that mining benefits local communities. At the same time, the private sector must act responsibly and be held accountable for the environmental and social impacts of their operations. The international community has an important role to play in providing technical support, facilitating partnerships, and promoting responsible sourcing practices. By adopting a holistic approach to mining reform, African countries can transform their mining sectors into engines of economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development. With effective leadership and commitment to responsible practices, Africa's mineral wealth can become a true catalyst for long-term prosperity. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth discussions on the top issues affecting Africa today. Share this video to spread awareness, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all our future content. Together, we make a difference in shaping Africa's future.